So, I want to talk about something that I hear from a lot of my clients. They've done the healing work, they have learned about the concept of boundaries and trust building, but they don't actually understand the implementation. So, what trust means in a relationship, how it's formed in a relationship, and what to look for really matters. And part of the issue is not just the other person, it's you. It's what you read into things, and it's the assumptions that you make and the projections that you make. So I want to unpack that and give you some clarity today. So a lot of times in dating, what happens is you are chatting with someone via text, you're talking with someone over the phone, and they're saying a lot of things. Now, I would almost say women do this a lot, but honestly, men do it too. So, what we do a lot is we can read into what someone else says and we take their words as if they are completely accurate, as if they mean what they're saying. And in the moment, they might mean what they're saying, but we can't invest ourselves emotionally. And what that means is when we invest ourselves emotionally, we get in our head about it. We start thinking what life might be like with this person and how they might save us, sort of without using those words in our brain, from the things about life that we don't like, and how they might benefit us and how good it might feel. And we start going into dreamland, and none of that has been earned yet. And so I don't like the concept of saying, well, trust is should just be given freely. And then if it's, violated or whatever in some way, then you take it back. No, you can be open, you can be curious, and you can not prejudge someone, but trust is something different. Trust has to be earned with repetition, with consistency, and with face-to-face time. And so I want to give an example. When it comes to adopting babies that have been in orphanages, there are some really interesting studies, and these studies actually apply to all people. So babies go through what's called cycles of met need. So that means baby cries, baby gets picked up. Baby cries, baby gets a diaper change. Baby cries, baby gets fed. They cry out, expressing that they have need, and their caregiver meets the need. Now, in any given day with a baby, there's probably hundreds of cycles of met need, and very quickly, thousands and thousands of cycles of met need before that baby can ever speak. And so, on the opposite end of that, if you have a baby in an orphanage, those orphanages that mostly don't exist anymore, but have and have been studied heavily, they don't cry. Those babies don't cry because their cycles of met need aren't happening. These are cycles of unmet need. They cry and they don't get the attention they need because there's 5 or 10 other babies in line for that diaper change before they are. And so they emotionally shut down and they stop reaching out with bids for connection. Now, think about this in the context of a relationship. And I don't care if it's a dating relationship or it's a marriage. This matters. And John Gottman did a lot of research on bids for connection and how much they matter, even inside of marriages. And so that is turning toward the other person and attuning to them. Now, in a dating world, this looks like time and consistency. So if they say they're going to do something, this means they do it. And even if they aren't saying it, you're watching their actions. Are they being proactive about connecting, communicating, learning about you, sharing about themselves? Because a lot of people will say, well, no one ever asks about me. Well, that's not a good sign, but it's also important that you step into vulnerability enough to share about you in balance with being curious about the other person. And you can talk all day long, all week long, for a month long, and talking is cheap. You could probably talk on the phone with a serial killer every day for a month and see that they have some decent aspects to themselves. They have trauma that you can kind of sympathize with, or they have a charm, or they have hopes and dreams that sound nice. But that doesn't mean that's going to be the reality of life with that person. So we put too much weight in words, and then we believe the words and we go into dreamland. And that dreamland has been cultivated in your brain for a very long time, piece by piece through your life experiences of what you desire most. And so it can be pretty easy to go there. That's the piece we really have to catch in ourselves. If someone else has a lot of flowery words, a lot of future faking, a lot of like, one day we'll do this, one day we'll do that, I'll move there, you'll live here, right up front before they've even gotten to know you, it's a big red flag. And so you have to build trust by spending lots of time together, by creating cycles of sort of met need. And that means you spend face-to-face time and you see how each other acts with each other, how you act under stress, how they act with other people, and you gather data. And this doesn't mean you don't see them in their humanity, that you aren't playful and fun and create a bond with them. This just means you don't let your common sense be left on the table at home. You aren't projecting into the future. So when you like someone a lot, you care about what they think about you and you're trying to put your best foot forward and you're wanting so badly to believe what they say that it feels like you're getting caught up in a flow into their dream world and your dreams are matching and it feels really good. But we have to remember it takes time to build trust. It takes consistency to build trust, not consistency of texting or calling, consistency of effort, making a plan, setting a plan, asking for input on plans, making an effort to actually spend enough time together that you can create a bond and have shared experiences enough that you get a full picture of who that person is, and that more importantly, they get a full picture of you as well. Because anyone who's saying that you're perfect is also in their head about who they think you are. They're putting you on a pedestal, and that pedestal will create a very far fall. So if we want to build something real and we want to build something authentic, we have to approach it with curiosity, and we cannot attach ourselves to our own projections. We can't attach to our own dreams of who we want this person to be. We have to let that unfold with evidence. We have to let it unfold with consistency. And I said this to someone recently, and they said, well, he did call when he said he'd call. He's doing what he said. But this person hadn't even met the other person yet. And I said, that's nothing. And they said, well, do I walk away? And I'm like, walk away from what? You don't have anything. There's nothing. This is nothing. This is a conversation that you've had a couple times. Walking away from something means you've spent time investing in it. And if you think that you're walking away from something really early that you actually haven't spent time investing in, all you've invested in is the mental story. Be careful about that. If you are investing in a mental story that you don't have any evidence for, you're going to find yourself swept away into a fantasy land and then woken up abruptly when this person isn't who they say they are. Now, this is what it means to not center someone else, but to keep yourself centered, where you go, okay, I have priorities in my life. I have things that matter to me, and I want to incorporate someone to build a relationship with, and I'm going to balance those two things. I'm not going to betray myself, change my plans all the time, always be the one to accommodate. Like, I'm going to continue to prioritize my needs and communicate my intention for connection with this other person and shared experiences, and not just hanging out at home doing nothing but watching TV together. That's actually kind of a cute thing to do, but after you've built trust and after you've built enough time together, that you have enough shared experiences together, that you actually are creating a friendship as well as an intimate or romantic relationship. Now, inside of a marriage, this can happen too. You can totally go off your own paths and get focused on other things and be like two ships passing in the night and not realize you're not connecting anymore. And so those bids for connection are really important. It's really important that you're still feeling safe enough to make bids for connection. And it's important that each of you are responding in a positive way, because according to John Gottman, there's 3 ways to respond. You can turn toward someone, like if they're at the window, and say, hey, there's a bird. Look at that. I've never seen a bird like that. And you can say, yeah, that's so cool. You're right. I've never seen one like that. Like, you're joining in, you're moving toward. Or you can say, who cares? I'm in the middle of something. And you're turning against. And then there's a third option of saying nothing. And it's interesting because the people that act like their partner didn't even make a bid at all and they stay silent are the people who split up the fastest. Because it is so painful to be ignored and act like you don't exist from the person you chose to build a life with. And the people who turn against, negative attention is still attention, right? So it's not great. They get divorced at higher rates, but it takes a little longer because they still have some kind of attention, and it's a toxic cycle, really. But this matters regardless of whether you are trying to find someone to build a commitment with or you are trying to maintain a commitment with someone. Trust is something that is built with connection and depth and follow through. It is not something you give away for free, and it is not you going down a mental wish list of what you want that person to be and then buying into their flowery words and then being shocked when they don't show up as that person because they didn't actually earn it. They didn't build trust, they just said a lot of stuff. So, one of the main things you want to look at in yourself to stop this pattern is why you are projecting so much onto someone else. Why do you have this flowery version in your head of what something should be, and that you're so hungry for it that you are willing to snap up these crumbs and think that they are something substantial? I'm not saying people don't trick you. I'm not saying people can't lie and pretend. They can, and it can mess with you. But if there is a neediness in you, it also means you are not meeting your own needs. This is probably a subconscious issue. It's probably a very old programming issue because even if you know in your conscious mind that you shouldn't be doing this, your subconscious mind is running over 95% of everything you think, feel, and do. So it's in control. And it is primarily programmed from birth to age 7, and then additionally programmed after that, but sort of based on that original programming. So if there was a part of you that wanted connection but couldn't quite reach it in a parent, if there's that little version of you that felt unseen, unheard, abandoned, dismissed, like you were maybe a burden, then anyone that's going to fill that need is going to feel very alluring to you. And so it's easy to latch on to flowery words and promises early on when you're starving in that area. So the answer is to reconnect to yourself. Do the subconscious work, the reframing work. And this is what I do. If you're new here, I'm Ketra Thompson, and I am a master hypnotist. So in the hypnotherapy process, we go back and we reframe this stuff on a subconscious level. And as an attachment style coach and a midlife coach, then we create a plan to step into your new way of being, which is actually a more authentic way of being before those wounds started calling the shots. It's deep work, it's profound work, but it is incredibly rapid work. Most people say they did more in 5 sessions with me than they ever could have done in 5 years of therapy. And some of my clients are therapists and or have been in therapy for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. And once they do the subconscious work, that's where they get all the momentum. And so if you're navigating these relationships and you're not sure why you keep getting hurt or why you don't see these things before they kind of hit you in the face, it's a subconscious thing. It's a subconscious program that says that this feels familiar unconsciously and that this is meeting a need in a place in you that's starving. And so what we want to do is we want to reframe that so you can show up in your authenticity, so you can be playful and you can be loving and you can be all the great things that people do fall in love with, but you can also be real and you can approach relationships with a pace that allows you to let trust build and to watch for consistency. Because that matters in the long run. You don't want to give your whole self to someone that hasn't earned the right to have all of that access to you in your life, and you don't want to go off into a dreamland about it either. So, if you'd like to have a one-on-one chat with me, I would love to do that with you, where I would help you get so much clarity. I would make a custom recommendation for you with no obligation, and you can set that up at the link in the description below, where we could have a consultation call. There's no charge to you, but it will at the very least give you so much more clarity and the options of what you can do to move forward so that you quit doing the same thing. I mean, aren't you sick of it yet? Aren't you sick of the confusion or the heartbreak or the hopelessness? We're alive to feel hopeful and to move in a direction that actually meets our needs without going into a fantasy land. So, if that's you and you're ready for some help, I'd love to chat with you. And until next time, I hope you curate a life by your own design.